Hello, YouTubers. We're back with some more Bible learning, Bible read. See if I can fix this here. There we go. All right, so we're in chapter 22 of Genesis, and Abraham's faith confirmed. Nice. Let's see what happens here. Now it came to pass after these things that God tested Abraham and said to Abraham, and he said, "Here I am." Then he said, "Take now your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you." Wow. So Abraham rose early in the morning and saddled his donkey and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac his son. And he split the wood for the burnt offering, and arose and went to the place in which God had told him. On the 3rd day Abraham lifted his eyes and saw a place afar off. And Abraham said to his young men, "Stay here with the donkey, the lad, and I will go yonder and worship, and we will come back to you." So Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac, his son, and he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and the 2 of them went together. But Isaac spoke to Abraham, his father, and said, "My father." And he said, "Here I am, my son." Then he said, Look, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" Wow, this got to be tough. And talk about trust in God. And Abraham said, "My son, God will provide himself the lamb for the burnt offering." So the 2 of them went together. Then he came to the place of which God had told him. And Abraham built an altar there and placed the wood in order. And he bound Isaac his son and laid him on the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. Wow. So he was going to go through it. And, well, let's read. But the angel of the Lord called him from heaven and said, "Abraham, Abraham." So he said, "Here I am." And he said, "Do not lay your hand on the lad, or do anything to him, for now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me." See, and that's the whole point, Got to put him above everything else in our lives, and it's really hard to do. Then Abraham lifted his eyes and looked, and there behind him was a ram caught in the thicket of its horns. So Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up for a burnt offering instead of his son. And Abraham called the name of the place, "The Lord will provide." And it is said to this day, "In the mount of the Lord it shall be provided." Very nice. So that's the whole point of it, I think. And I think many scholars would agree that, his ultimate faith that Abraham had, that he thought even if Isaac died, the Lord could raise him from the dead. And, we might see that later on in the Bible, huh? And then the angel of the Lord called to Abraham a second time out of heaven and said, "By myself I have sworn, says the Lord, because you have done this thing and have not withheld your son, your only son, blessing I will bless you, and multiplying I will multiply your descendants as the stars of the heaven and as the sand which is on the seashore. And your descendants shall possess the gate of their enemies." Your descendants shall okay. In your seed, all nations of the earth shall be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. So Abraham returned to his young men, and they arose and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham dwelt at Beersheba. Okay, so that's a pretty crazy story there. I'm sure if anyone knows anything about the Bible, This is a testament to Abraham's faith, and that's why he was blessed with all these nations, because in his ultimate power, and I think this comes from the New Testament too, Abraham trusted God to do what he said he was going to do, and he still hasn't failed, and he never will. Now it came to pass after these things that it was told to Abraham, saying, Indeed, Milcah also has borne children to your brother Nahor. Hughes is his firstborn. Booz is his brother. Kemuel, the father of Abraham. Chest, Hazo, Padesh, Jedfly, Bethuel, and Bethuel begot Rebekah. These 8, Milcah, born to Nahor, Abraham's brother, his concubine, whose name was Remuah, also bore to Baal, Gaham, Dahash, and Makkah. Man, I am just totally butchering these names. But that is chapter 22 in Genesis, and we'll have to see what happens later on in the epic saga known as the Bible. Very interesting stuff. And we thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.